Commissioner, I just want to clear this up for Liberal members who unsurprisingly don't seem to know what it is that you do here. But can you please confirm that you do not have jurisdiction or mandate over the Arrive scam scandal?
I do not have, as I mentioned in my opening remarks. My jurisdiction only extends to reporting public office holders, i.e. senior public servants who have been appointed by Order in Council, to put it in common language.
And the people that do fall under your mandate, lavish dinners, whiskey tastings, being given to those individuals by suppliers or involved parties, that would be that would fall under your mandate and trigger an investigation.
It triggers an investigation or not depends on the specific facts, but clearly the conduct of reporting public office holders with suppliers, customers, or something like this, etc., depending what the situation is, what happens, etc., would be subject to the act and could lead to an investigation.
Of course. Yeah, it seems like there was an attempt, with you having been suggested as a witness, that this would be an opportunity for the government to exonerate themselves from the wrongdoing that's occurred in this $60 million scandal. But of course, they summoned the wrong officer of Parliament to offer that exoneration if it were available. I have a question for you, Commissioner, about Ms. Annette Verscherian, who was the Liberal-appointed Chair of Sustainable Development Technologies Canada. That's the billion-dollar green slush fund. Why was she subject to the Conflict of Interest Act?
Well, she was the chairman of the STDC, and as such appointed by Governor and Council, and so she was subject to the Conflict of Interest Act. She declared her conflict, and she went through the rules of when she was appointed, letting us know her interests, what's there. We appointed a counselor, as we call them, to her to make sure that her affairs would all be in such a way that there wouldn't be a conflict of interest.
Who was the head of government at the time that she was appointed?
Do you know, Michael?
She was appointed in 2019, so it would be the current government.
So the head of government was Justin Trudeau?
Yes.
What sections of the Conflict of Interest Act did Ms. Verscherian violate while chair of the board at the Prime Minister's Slush Fund, having been appointed by his government?
Well, you read my report. So I made an extensive investigation into her activities, and I found out, first of all, that she's not only head of the STDC, she was also head of two not-for-profit organizations, one called Verschuren Center and one Mars. And as such, which are basically incubator organizations. Right. And certain companies came forward which were sponsored by these incubators. She declared her conflict of interest, but then there was an actual vote, what they called, what is called.
I apologize for the interruption, sir. I'm quite tight for time. I was looking for the number at which sections that she violated. Are you able to reference those offhand, or just to enumerate the number of sections that she was found to have violated?
Yes. Michael, give him the details, please.
So there were two provisions. It was subsection 6.1 of the Act and section 21.
Sir, are you able to tell us how many hundreds of thousands of dollars
your mic
have been the beneficiary of as a result of the conflict?
As part of the report, we didn't do the calculation based on the votes and the dollar amounts associated with those votes.
So we have the Prime Minister's hand-picked chair of his billion-dollar green slush fund who's found guilty of breaking Canada's ethics laws. This is, of course, the latest in a long list of Liberals to have been found to have contravened this act. In your investigation, did you find that former Liberal Innovation Minister Navdeep Bains was aware of Ms. Verscherian's conflict of interest with NR Store at the time that she was appointed? Just a quick yes or no, if you could.
We did not look at her appointment. That's not our job. Our job is to look at her not the steps that go to her appointment, but what, once she is appointed, does she have a conflict and how can it be resolved? And by the way, what we did find, and let's make it quite clear, that she received incorrect legal advice, and that was the real problem. And her advice was, because it was an emergency COVID, conflict of interest issues do not apply. That was absolutely wrong. She followed that advice and voted on the subsidies that were given to all companies, to the injections in order to help them survive the COVID crisis.
And
And what I found is, no, you shouldn't have done that. You should have recused yourself, you should have walked out of the room because the vote affected a company in which you have an interest. She didn't do that, but she did it on the record clearly shows that she was told no conflict of interest is here. And I spoke to her counsel, I cross-examined him and said, on what basis? And he said, on my knowledge of basic corporate law. There's no corporate law that I know of that says because there's an emergency, conflict of interest does not apply. So it was just incorrect advice that she followed.
Thank you very much. That is the time.